All right, welcome back to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. As everybody knows, Houston Dynamo back in action. They are in the playoffs. They will play their final game on decision day this Saturday in Portland, Oregon. Soccer Matters, as always, presented by John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm. We're pleased to be joined by Ben Olsen. I've assured him we're not going to do a 30, 40-minute interview here because his time is valuable. Ben, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome. And you say that every time, and then we.
You notice how I sneak a few more minutes in every time.
It's good. I enjoy speaking to you as well. So if I think that's the reason we go so long. What do you got?
It's great fun. All right. Well, let's start it with this. Are you as a coach and the players getting a little bit more sense of consequence and finality now, as you know, we go into decision day and then it's playoffs and margin for error probably is not big?
I think we're getting there. The bye week is always a funky time. They come at strange times, in particular the 2 weeks before decision day, and then there's another one that splits up the playoffs. So they're always interesting to navigate, but we've done them enough this year. We think we have a good recipe on how to go about them. We've been in 2 days this week. We'll step away tomorrow. We'll come in Thursday, Friday, and then Friday we'll leave to Portland and take on them in a very tough place, and they're playing a very desperate team. So once Thursday hits, I think you'll see a different look in these guys' eyes, and they'll be ready to really, really dial in on a good Portland team. And again, as I said, a very hungry one. They need to win. We need to win. Everybody needs to win for the most part at this point, in particular in the West. And that's an exciting thing that should lend itself to a lot of goals and some exciting games down the stretch here.
Ben, you've navigated these playoffs many, many years. I mean, that's one of the aces up the sleeve of the Houston Dynamo, as you've been through it, seen it all. You've gotten into the playoffs numerous times. You know how to handle players this time of the year. Do you get the sense that you got the rest for some of the guys you needed to, and some guys who got niggling injuries to get back?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a balance of rest and staying sharp, and communicating and educating and getting better during these bye weeks. And we're late in the year. We are kind of who we are, and we understand who we are, and that's a good thing. But also, we got to turn the screw and understand that the last 2 months of the season we've been good, but at times we've coasted a little bit, and the playoffs, it's just a different animal. The good news is that we're going to play a Portland team in Portland that this is going to feel exactly like a playoff game, because it's do or die for them, and they have to win, to make sure they stay in this thing and to be in the postseason. We're in the postseason, but we need to play at a certain level to make sure we get home field advantage and get the points, because that's an important part of, I think, having success in the playoffs. It's not. You can do it without it, but it certainly can help. And so this is going to be a nice dress rehearsal for the playoffs, because of the intensity, the crowd, the atmosphere here there at Portland is second to none for my money in this league. So it's just going to be a really nice test for us to see where we're at.
Ben Olsen, coach of the Houston Dynamo, HoustonDynamo.com. They're in the playoffs, can end up anywhere from 2 to 6, with a huge one in Portland this weekend. We'll have the call right here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. And you're listening to Soccer Matters, presented by the Daspit Law Firm. I'm watching the Astros, I'm watching Major League Baseball, and I'm seeing how teams have entered it. Not that I'm an expert on baseball or anything, but momentum is such a key. Can coaches generate momentum? Everybody says Ben is one of the greatest motivators. Can you motivate and generate momentum to players, or is it that you give them the tools to generate their own momentum?
I think it's both. Messaging is important, and the cadence and the rhythm of your messaging, and when and how you deliver it, of course, that's all part of leadership. And but if you don't have innate competitors, if you don't have players that are just want this, right, and want to push and go further, and and if you don't have players that are willing to sacrifice and do more and suffer to get those type of results, you're cooked. If you're relying on a coach to do all that, it's not gonna happen. And fortunately, I think we have ultra competitive guys. Every team has ultra competitive guys. This is what they all do. They've been competing all their lives, and this is their livelihood. But we do have guys that have been around and been there and understand the pace and the intensity of playoffs. And they also are have some fire still in their belly. And again, you don't know. We don't know. This is our first round with this group. This is my first round with this group. This is their first round as a team, and so far up until this point, when the challenge is big, we've been able to kind of dive into that competitive nature and play at a really high level when the stakes are bigger, and hopefully that continues with this group. So I don't know if that answered your question, but again, yes, of course, we're all pushing all the buttons we can, but the season is also a long one, and if you're pushing buttons every day, I've seen you wear guys out and players out, and they're just by the time playoffs come, they just don't have the fire, and so I guess it's a little bit of an art, but in the end, the best thing to do is have super competitive players that are hungry and want more, and want to understand that raising the trophy is worth suffering for.
Ben, early in your career, when you were coaching at DC and you were there for quite some time, obviously been historically one of the legendary players at DC, but also as a coach, was that a balance you had to kind of figure out? Because you were an aggressive player from the day you stepped on the field, and I saw you at UVA. Did you kind of have to learn when to kind of push the screws a little bit and when to pull back?
Yes, I certainly had no idea how to do that, my first couple of years, and you only gain that through experience of now going into the postseason a few times and understand, okay, looking back, what do we do? But then you have every year's a different animal, and you have different rhythms to get there, different journeys, and sometimes you have the momentum. It's about keeping it going and pushing them, making sure they're not comfortable. It's sometimes they're fading down the playoffs, and it's about maybe stepping away and bringing back the love of the game. So this is a little bit of a feel and a smell, and it depends on your team. It depends on the journey getting to the playoffs. So I don't have a clear answer of this is what I believe in and how to go about the last few weeks leading into the playoffs. The players understand it's the utmost importance for this club right now to not be okay with just the playoffs, and now not be okay. Oh, we got a trophy in the bag. Like, okay, but that's all done, and we have this opportunity that we don't want to waste because it's a good group, and because there is a little momentum, and we're playing at a high level, and we have a pretty good understanding of who we are. Like, you don't want to waste these, and because it doesn't always happen. And you've seen this enough, and I've seen this enough, where some years you get a couple injuries and things spiral the other way. It just doesn't happen every year, and that's our goal. We want to next year have similar performances and be in the same spot and keep putting ourselves in positions to win trophies. But it doesn't always happen. So understanding that and capitalizing on what we have here. It's a good group on and off the field that likes each other, likes to fight for each other, and on any given day can beat any team in this league.
Ben, go back into your headspace when you were a player and you won the MLS Cup. What were some of the things that fell together from your perspective when you were a player when you won the MLS Cup with DC?
Well, the first one, I was just stepping into a well-oiled machine, and I just needed to be a kind of a cog in there, and even in the game, we played LA in the finals, and Roy Lassiter gives Robin Frazier, one of the best center backs this league has ever seen, a bump early. He pops his shoulder out and he goes out of the game. So, there's also that stuff that goes into winning a championship. And we played on a shitty field, excuse my language, in Foxborough, right? And it was a dirt field from football. The Patriots beat it up pretty good, and Kevin Hartman loved the ball and it went right to me, and I kicked it in an open net. So there's this, there's a lot to it to go the whole way. You need a little luck. You need the right bounces. And then the one we won in 2004, that was a whole different group too. I had more at stake with that team. I had I had a bigger pulse, or I had a bigger imprint on that team. I was more of a leader, and in some ways that one was more fulfilling because I felt like I had my hands more on that team, and I was a more influential player in that one against Kansas City in 2004. But again, that was a Peter Novak team, a different type of a journey. So I don't know exactly how to answer that question.
Ben Olsen joining us. Last question before we let you go. Let's just switch gears to the Portland Timbers. Some of their personnel, obviously, some of these guys today in action in South America and World Cup qualifying. But, players like Evander, Felipe Mora, who's coming back into shape here as a goal scorer. Maybe just some thoughts on the Portland Timbers and some of their danger men and the type of style they play.
KG9, you mentioned a few of them, Espria and Moreno, and Paredes, Evander, Mora, a real opportunistic guy in the box now who's the goal seems very big for him. Espria's physicality and is super dynamic in transition. Evander can be the best player on the field at any moment. Moreno's crafty, can hit you vertically, and kind of a transformed winger playing in the interior. Charles back. Experienced back line. It's a good team. It's a good team. It's a physical team, and they're really good at home. So their away form hasn't been great, so it's important for us to go there and weather a little bit of their energy that they're going to come with, but also make sure we're not doing that too much, and we bring our own energy. We bring our own punch to that game, because we also have to win the game. So it's a good team. Transition moments are going to be critical. They just do such a good job and hitting you on the break. So how we balance ourselves and look after each other when the ball turns over is going to be critical in this game. And you have to be efficient. You don't get as many chances on the road. You don't get as many chances in the playoffs. So if you get them, you got to stick them.
Ben, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck in Portland. We appreciate it immensely.
See you, Glenn. Thank you.
All right. That's Ben Olsen, Houston Dynamo head coach, brought to you by John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm, daspitlaw.com, 713. Call now.